Yes, please.
Viscount Monckton, the ETS, and it's not debated in public territory much, but it's a carbon tax aimed at wiping out capital. And in Britain, the results have been coming in since 2008. How do you go about with company executives? In Australia, companies have been writing what could be called suicide notes, how we're implementing green policies and conforming to carbon reduction emissions. How have you gone with company executives in Britain? And what support are you getting from economists on tackling this, in fighting this and redefining carbon tax accurately for the public?
Right, that's a very good question about why don't we call the ETS what it is, which is a tax on the emission of carbon, or in fact it's just a tax full stop, because it isn't really on the emission of carbon at all. It's got nothing to do with the emission of carbon. It's just a way of raising revenue. That's the first point. The second point is, I think, why do so many corporate executives drift along with this? Well, I think they drift along with this for the same reason that so many scientists do. And I can tell you the story of Garth Paltridge, who wrote the excellent book, The Climate Caper, to which a very talented young British peer wrote the foreword. Now,
this book is available out the back.
At an unreasonable price. And the point is this. Paltridge says that when he first, having looked at things carefully, decided there was something desperately wrong with the IPCC's process and its science, and he said so in public, he received a call within 24 hours from the funding council that pays for just about all scientific research throughout Australia, and he was told that if he ever said publicly anything of the kind again, all of his funding would be cut off. Now that is not how science is done. One of the dangers that has arisen, because the state is now the only customer, because science is what is called a monopsony, only one paying customer, and that's the taxpayer. If you get a funding council that decides to suck up to politicians who don't know any science, but can see an advantage in peddling this scare, by telling scientists that if they pursue diligent research and go public, as you have to do, and publish your results if you think that the IPCC is wrong, then they will have their funding cut off, then clearly that's a great way to build a consensus, isn't it? But is it science? No, it is not. And that is why we have companies also going along with the government of the day and signing up to all sorts of corporate initiatives to show how good and green and government-friendly they are, because that's how you get government contracts. And the whole process of politics now stinks. And it stinks. And it stinks because politicians are a prey to vested interests, and because they are now a vested interest of their own, so strong because of the concentration of power and wealth in their hands, their power and your wealth, that it becomes impossible for anyone who wishes to do business and live and move and breathe and have his being and do his scientific research to do so unless he kowtows to the emperor that now exists. And I regard this as a deeply unfortunate and profoundly undemocratic trend. It's the same in the United Kingdom as it is here. Do not think that in any way I am criticizing one party or another or one country or another. It is an unhealthy development throughout the developed world, and the only way we're going to break that is to expose this climate nonsense for what it is scientifically. And that's what I've tried to do today. I've outlined what may or may not be a correct scientific argument, but I've told you exactly how I come to it, step by step. And how many of you think that the argument that I have produced is entirely scientifically unreasonable, whether you agree with it or not? One, maybe. Well, sir, think on. We'll discuss it afterwards. And the point is that each of us is entitled to put forward his proposals, and because I am not funded by the state, nor am I funded by vast corporations, I am free to say what I think, and I say it because I think it, not because I am paid to say it. And at this point, I want briefly to pay tribute to, security, will you take out anyone who just interrupts too much? What I want to do is this. I want to thank Case Smith here and his friend and good colleague, John Smead, two retired engineers from Noosa. They could have sat with their hands in their pockets and done nothing. They decided when they saw Kevin Rudd attacking me in a 45-minute speech last November that I should be brought to Australia so that I could have the chance to have the right of reply that I would not otherwise have got. They dug deep. They dug deep into their own superannuations. And superannuations, as you will know when you get to our kind of age, are not overgenerous, in order that they would underwrite the risk of loss on this tour. But God bless you. So many of you have appeared at every venue. So many of you have paid your $20 that they will get all their money back. And that means that the only people who will have paid to hear me speak here in Australia are those who have come to hear me speak, yourselves. And I am grateful to you all, and God bless you.
Let me just add on the issue of political correctness that we have had an enormous response from individuals to our request for donations, and we're extremely grateful for that. But there has not been not one corporation that's been prepared to be associated with this tour because of the fear of being held to be politically incorrect. So this political correctness thing is alive and well in Australia. Now, I've got two people standing at the microphone here. I'll take the gentleman in the blue shirt first because he got to the microphone first. Thank you.
Yes, Christopher Monckton, employment case, thank you for what you put on. I've studied environmental design from 1974 to 1977, so I was one of the first people studying environmental design in Australia. I'm very concerned about environmental issues, and in my opinion, having an emissions trading scheme to promote renewable energy is like Henry Ford not building the Model T because he couldn't get a tax on horse manure. We didn't need a tax on horse manure to get the vehicle industry going. We didn't need to have a typewriter ribbon tax to get the computer industry going. And we don't need an ETS to promote solar energy in Australia. The question I would like to ask is that one of the things that I found totally preposterous is knowing a little bit about chaos theory is when you have 10-year, 20-year, 30-year projections on climate change, can we possibly get either a Christopher Monckton's or an Ian Plimer challenge to the ETS lobby? Instead of looking at climate in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, let's give them a challenge to give us the climate in every capital city in Australia in 12 months' time and see where they come up with it.
I think that's an excellent idea, and I agree. Let's go for it.
Okay.